Hello and welcome to today's video on I Ask Aliens Your Questions. And I have set up a safe space, which involves creating a protective bubble around me and around you guys who are watching this video. And I would like to help by answering your questions today by calling forwards my spirit guides who will assist in the answering. So first of all, this question is from, I'm not really sure how to pronounce your username, but it is the number one, Mula. And you said, another fascinating video, thanks. Oh, it's my pleasure. I didn't know you had a reptilian guide. Hello, Lucine, and thanks for her answers. That's right. In fact, Lucine was one of my first guides that I was aware of, even before, quite some time before my awakening. And I must admit, I used to get a little bit scared when I was aware of her. But whenever I felt like I came closer to her energy, she always feels incredibly loving and supportive and has been nothing but loving and supportive in the years that I've known her, perhaps going on close to 9 years. So yeah, I feel very grateful. And just like our human races, galactic races, we can't judge each other just on race alone. So yeah, it's really beautiful to have a wide spectrum and a diverse spectrum of spirit guides. So your question is, I do well with vibrational tools, especially flower essences. Could you and your guides speak a little bit more on flower essences in particular? It sounds like Lucine was talking about something similar with putting the vibration in water. And it keeps going. It says the Paralandra line of flower essences has a remedy called climate change balance that I feel is useful as my animal body is aware of planet's changes. Could you speak about this essence in particular? I'm not affiliated with Paralandra, just like their essences. Thanks so much for those videos. Okay, let's ask. Let's see which one of my guides would like to come forward and answer these questions, please. There's a bit of discussion about who. It looks like my guide, Maya, as she's closest to Earth, is coming forwards. And so Maya is saying that plants very much have just like humans, they have very much their own unique vibrational frequencies and frequency ranges. And she also speaks of the intention behind the flowers themselves. Now, just as I was setting up, I was being shown a bit more about lavender and how lavender works. And it was really beautiful to see how the frequency, like these higher frequencies of different plants and flowers, are able to affect and clear the frequencies around us. And that this has been an ancient knowledge that many have known that, for instance, if you plant specific flowers around your garden, these will have an effect on the energy surrounding your home. And she's saying, I never thought of this, that our gardens, if you have one, are like the auric field around your home. And you can consider our homes to be very much alive. She says it's also important to talk to plants and flowers and ask them, like set intentions with them. And she's giving me an example. So I recently bought my wife a little bonsai tree, and it's sat out in the middle of our kitchen. And I wanted it I set the intention when I bought it to really help us reconnect with nature. And to have a living thing, it has this beautiful thick trunk to it, and to be able to touch and interact with it each day. And it needs just a little bit of water quite regularly. So setting the intention for it to help you reconnect with nature is one way of like reaching an agreement with that particular plant, in this case, a little bonsai tree. I'm just asking, like, I'd like to draw the questions more to about these a bit more on flower essences. And Maya is saying, I'm getting there. So it's important to know that just like anything that's grown, even crystals, that the growth of the energy and the intention of the energy that's in there when the plant or flower is grown is very important. And yes, these different types of species of plants and flowers do have their own unique ranges. But she's saying, for example, you could set the intention for a very high vibration flower essence to have to have as negative as possible or low vibration as possible intention in it. But it's limited by the ability, like the frequency range of the flower essence itself. And so this is often a way that we can kind of filter out or separate out specific parts of the frequency range of dark to light by using things like plants, their essences, including flowers, and because like each one can only hold like a specific range. So it's almost like the most negative energy, for example, we spoke of lavender, really would, if you were to map it to emotions, would come down. Let me see if I can get an answer on what would be the lowest vibration. It's funny, she's describing it as that good feeling, that the lowest you'll get is like just feeling good. You know, a bit like when someone says to you, how do you feel? I'm fine, I'm good. It's like she's describing it as a midpoint. So Maya's saying it's important when you consume any products from others, and this is not just applicable to plants, flowers, and their essences. It includes anything, is to feel into the energy of what's behind it. And so if you have a clear understanding of the energy and the intention, excuse me, I've got a tickly throat, then what's important to know is that when you consume this in any way, when you buy it, when you bring it into your home, if, for example, it's flower essence and you're putting into water, then, or if there's oils that you're burning, like for aromatherapy, that the intention of the energy of what was grown in there will be released in that moment. Okay. This is this is great. It's all news to me. Okay. And so this is something that we do as humans, and Maya's saying a lot of other planets do this as well. Like they would buy, for instance, if you were going to buy like a massive labradorite crystal, you would first take a sample, and the sample should be of pure energy, or should I say, what you're trying to do is like feel into the intention and the energy behind what was given to you. Now, this was a very beautiful gift from a very beautiful soul here in Scotland, and with this crystal, it feels for me just so empowering. Like it's just like it was meant to be. We were meant to work together. And so when I received, like, you know, just a couple of crystals, I definitely asked for more, and it was just so liberating. So definitely enjoy that. So this idea of taking a sample first, a bit like we have a sample of paint, or one product instead of taking a whole range of flower essences. Excuse me, my throat chakra. So this is important for you to, isn't it funny that it clears immediately? it's important for you to just try some of these, try before you buy, like try samples. And let me see if I can get an answer on how to best feel into this. How does it feel when you use different products from others? So Maya's got me doing this. So certainly putting your hands over it. So our hands are very good at receiving energy. And then also holding something against your heart. Now, if it's like a liquid or something that's difficult to pick up and hold, getting it close to your heart and asking your heart. So to be clear, it just needs to be within your auric field. But often, when you see me, for example, place my hand on my heart, I'm doing this to set the intention to feel with my heart. So it's important perhaps that you start with taking a deep breath in through the nose and out through the mouth, nice and loud. And then what you do is you set the intention to say to your heart, please let me know what is the intention, the energy encoded and embodied into this product or this object or objects. And then if you can, just bring the object as close as you can to your heart. Oh, and the answer I got from my heart, from my Labradorite, but nothing was nothing but love, John. It melts my heart. And if you're watching this, know who you are that gave me the crystal. That's so kind. Thank you. Oh, and please don't send me, and this is a message to everyone, please don't send me any crystals. I have more than enough. And I'm on like a crystal diet, trying to keep my studio nice and clear energetically. So I just have literally a couple of crystals here. So yeah, I hope that helps. It was really fascinating. Part of me really wanted to learn about the different types, the different uses. And I feel like maybe we could get some more understanding of that. But the message today feels very much broader, because there's so many variations of the way that we use plants and flowers. And so it's important to know that behind every product, there's an energy. And this includes like software and stuff on your phone, and everything is created with a consciousness and energy and intention. And even where a specific intention wasn't set, it kind of often ends up with this kind of mixed, wavy, like unset intention. And you can ask your heart about all of these experiences. Okay, so SC735B6 says, silly question. No such thing as a silly question. Are your alien guides existing in here and now, or from a different time in the past? For example, what planet, what solar system have they tried to communicate with us in 3D? Okay. So there's many questions to this answer. So, sorry, many questions to this answer. Well, there's many questions in the question. So I do have, at the moment, I've just kept it available for my members on my website, but I do have like a kind of matrix spreadsheet that I created. And if you're going through my Higher Self Foundational Training, or if you're looking at this this page that I have, if you're one of my members, then it describes all of this except for perhaps technologies and the 3D aspect. So to create that, what I do is in the Higher Self Foundational Training, which starts on the 10th of March, one of the week's session is we focus on meeting your spirit guides, and we ask your spirit guides to step into a lineup. And this is exactly what I did when I first met my guides, was I asked them to line up, and then I would introduce myself one at a time, say hello, what's your name, where are you from, what's your superpower, what galactic or human race are you from, how do you know me, how do we work together, what's your kind of signature smell, color, your frequency range, a whole load of questions. So we ask all of that, and so I already know without asking most of the answers. So I can start with that, and then I'll bring in one of my guides to ask about what I don't know. So first of all, you said, are they existing in here and now or from a different time? So there's two existing in here. I would also add that there's a dimensional aspect to this. So here is still for me in the third dimension, although I feel like increasingly existing in bubbles of fifth dimension, or times of my life are in a bubble of a fifth dimension, and sometimes a hybrid between the two. And my guides, and this is really common, that our spirit guides are in the fifth dimension. So some of them can come lower, some of them can come down into fourth dimension. But I would describe it as, what we're trying to do as humans is we're trying to ascend, we're trying to raise our vibrations and step up into higher dimensions. And to do so, you need a guide, a spirit guide, who is of that dimension or is capable of existing and sustaining their existence in that dimension. And, it takes a lot of effort, just like for us to shift between dimensions. So this is why most of the time, I would say like 90% of the time, I meet spirit guides who are for clients who are in the fifth dimension or above. Just recently, I've had one or two that can come into the fourth dimension and sustain it. And third dimension is much rarer, and I'll come on to that in terms of the communicating and physically being here. So you could describe it as, no, my guides are not here right now with me in this room, physically in the third dimension. But remember that this universe is not physicality first. It's consciousness that creates energy. Energy creates matter. So it might, the third dimension might feel more real to us, like we can touch things and feel them more easily because they're denser to us and because we're dense, like the dense objects around us. But as you raise your vibration, these physical things become like more difficult to reach down to. And your higher vibrations, your fourth and fifth dimension aspects of you, are where your consciousness shifts into. And that there's also like a range of emotions for these as well. So it's much harder to feel fear, lack, shame, hate in the fifth dimension. You have to come down to like the third dimension to feel this. The aspect of the different time, there is no space and time. In the respect that it doesn't exist in the linear terms. So this helps explain why a lot of my guides are from different times. So they come together across different kind of, how to describe it, like different realms of space and time, but these all run in parallel. I would describe, so this is John talking, not without asking my guides. I would describe my experiences with Maya, who I talk to the most, as first of all, she's a very long living being into at least 3,000 years. And so, yes, she has spent a lot of time on Earth. It feels to me like she's less active now in her role of, we describe it as like living in the now, and is more, as an elemental, is more like one of her sole purposes is more helping me, which is very, very kind of her. Other guides, so for me, it feels like my Lyran guide, Emenshal, my Mantis guide, Marita, they have different spaces and times where they come together is in the fifth dimension and very much timeless. So it's almost like they come from what feels for me often the past, because Emenshal, for example, has been my father before in a Lyran past life, and we've worked together a lot since in different lifetimes as partners. Like I don't always see him as a father figure. Well, he has a very strong masculine presence, which is very nurturing, which is really lovely in that respect. I feel that. So the short answer is they're from different times, but they come together in more timeless dimensions, such as the fifth dimension. And then what planet, what solar system? So Maya, so this is also quite difficult, right? To get your head around. What I've just described, we do this as humans, right? We'll say, hey, John, where are you from? Oh, I live in Scotland. Oh, okay. We don't then ask, and where did you live before this lifetime? And what form were you? So all of these are true. And so, for example, what I often see in client sessions is a guide will come forward. So, for example, I had one recently where the guide came forwards as a male, as like a businessman, and he was like quite short and stocky and had like a uniform on, and then the guide shifted to a later lifetime, and they showed themselves as a nurse. And I was like, oh, why did you shift? Like, why did you go from one lifetime to another? And they said because they wanted to show, first of all, these were two different lifetimes where they had known my client. And then also they wanted to share that they often have male incarnations, and this is really common, switching genders and races, like loads. I've definitely had lots of female past lives. And so it was all to tell a story that as a female, they also had quite strong masculine energy, and that the two lifetimes were important to share, but there was one as a nurse that was the most important to share. So if I'm to answer this question of, are they from the past? There's also these like multiple past versions of my guides, just like us. They're beings just like us, and we're all equal in this universe, right? We're all equal. We're just in different dimensions and different frequencies, and have had different experiences and different numbers of lifetimes, and we all have unique superpowers, and all our souls have different intentions for how we choose to grow and experience through these incarnations. So yeah, you can definitely start by asking the question, where are you from, right? Where are you from, what planet, etc. But know that there are multiple answers to this question. And I feel that rather than confuse things, because it's hard to explain, in many respects it simplifies things, because what you're really doing when you connect with a guide and they connect with us is where our souls are connecting together, and our souls are eternal. Our souls don't have homes, right? We don't need to just stay in the respect we can call anywhere our home, but we don't need to just have one planet, one solar system, star system, one galaxy, one universe, one timeline, one dimension. We can have many of these. And I'd explain this in other videos, but the way I see, I don't know if this is helpful with this crystal, but the way I see our souls functioning, and it's the same for our guides, is that at the center, it's actually white. Maybe I should imagine at the center of a wheel, there's this like blob. I see this beautiful white blob, not like this shape, but almost like a plasma field that is your soul. And then from the soul, imagine like lots of different spikes, lots of different spokes coming out of it like a wheel. So all the way around the outside of the soul are multiple spokes of the wheel, and each spoke is from your soul to your soul star chakra, where your higher self is, and then out to your incarnation. And so with each of these different spokes of the wheel, that's what you have as that's what you have as individual incarnations. And I've seen people with different numbers of, I describe them as active incarnations at any one time. And it's almost like our soul is wanting to focus its energy on one particular incarnation at a time, or a group of them, like 8 or 9. And there may be more, there may be less with different people. So each incarnation is a different personality. So I have John as one of them. I've had previous lives being James, and his runs in parallel to mine. We share the same soul, so many of the aspects, if you met us, you'd see a lot of similarities. And I've had experiences of walking through old towns with him, because he was around the 1888, what a magical number, around that time period was his lifetime. And so he will walk with me, and it's like, almost like the bridge, the outside of the wheel, there's a connection between the two of us where we have awareness. It's limited, and it takes a lot of practice to be able to talk to your past lives. But I've physically been walking down the road, and he's turned up next to me and is talking to me and showing me like glimpses, like through my third eye. I'm like seeing like how the town was back in 1888, and who he knew, and who he had talked to, and what he would do on different days of the week, and just very human stuff. And that, I know that he's me. I know he's an aspect of me, but I know that he couldn't play guitar. I don't know if he really sang, and I've really asked. He had different hobbies. And so there was a lot of different aspects to us. So this is to answer the question about spirit guides. This is also true for them as well. They can have multiple different versions of themselves. Generally, none of this is a coincidence, right? So there's a reason behind everything. And so what the different souls of you and your spirit guides want to do with each other is to work with each other. And so you become like a vibrational match, and you have a discussion before each incarnation is created, and you decide which are the teams that's going to support those lifetimes, and then which of the superpowers of each soul will work together. So, for example, Maya, my guide, helps me connect with the earth, with the planet, helps me support raising the vibrations of the planet, and helps me with my communication. And so her superpowers were, directly set up to help me at first. And then later, Emenchal came along and helps me with energy clearing and healing, and that kind of fierce, like that fierce, loving aspect to him. And then what planet? So if it's just this most recent lifetime where I'm working with one of my spirit guides, if I take three of them, for example, Maya is from Earth, but she's an elemental being. And so from the solar system. And then there's Emenchal, so he's a Lyran, he's from Lyra. And then also Marita. Now Marita, I find quite fascinating as a mantis. She does have a planet she calls home, but she also really considers she spent most of her time in space aboard Galactic Federation ships, in particular Athena. She spends most of her time there. So she really calls that home. Okay, and finally, have they tried technology to communicate with us in 3D? I would say there's huge limitations with our technologies. And the way I would describe when I talk to my spirit guides, for example, is I will hear the words that they're saying. And to me, it sounds in English, although I know they're not actually speaking English. And then the next thing, I have a feeling. So they're transmitting a feeling. Often wrapped around the word and the feeling is the intention of like what that feeling's to do for me. So it's almost like encoding it. So you could describe it as like light codes or even like DNA codes. So what's happening is if my guides want to share a love feeling with me, they'd say the word love, and then this love feeling would come into my heart, and then it would start to like change my heart in that moment. It's beyond just a feeling. It's like my heart chakra, for example, would change shape and even color. There's also colors and visuals wrapped around, and sounds and smells. And also I would describe when I'm doing my Hi, it's John videos each day, I feel like there's like a new mental model each time being given to me. So it's almost like a set, like a draft kind of blueprint, a schema of a mental model, a belief system for me to experience, and then for me to integrate. And part of that integration is saying it out loud to bring it into this third dimension. And then I also get the day to reflect on it. And I also post into my membership group, like my experiences each day about meditation and what else is going on in my life. And it's funny because I'm looking at my mixing desk here. You know, it can take in audio. I can connect it to my phone. And there are some times that you will get communications through your guides. You'll get like numbers. You'll get songs playing on the radio, or a John Binnie song turning up, or whatever. You'll see feathers. You'll see car bumper stickers. Like, you'll see all these, like, just there's no limit to these things. You see clouds in the sky. Anything that has the ability to be manipulated, and often the codes themselves, the numbers, bring great meaning. Now, it's not always the same, right? But if you experience anything like that, here's the best advice I can give you is, if you see, for example, like when I was visiting my old company and my teams for a couple of hours yesterday for a coffee, I left at 11 a.m. And what I knew was, when I saw it, I just stopped for a moment. I placed my hand on my heart and said, so say it out loud. And I did. I said it to my old boss. I said, oh, look, it's 11:11. I don't think she really was interested, but I said it. So I was extending this acknowledgement and gratitude for that sign. And then I said, look at that. It must be the perfect time for me to leave. And I did. And as I left the office and I said goodbye to everyone, just as I came out, I met my friend Natasha Rocha, who's also also there in Edinburgh. So that was just a really beautiful experience. And so whenever you have any communication, the same goes for when you're talking to your spirit guides, or when you see like angel numbers or signs, etc. Even if you're seeing them on your phone, just because you're scrolling through something, then take a moment, pause, check in on how you're feeling, what's going on around you. Start to open up your heart to a sense of what is the message behind this, and then extend gratitude. And so you're creating this flywheel each time, this feedback loop, and it means that you're going to get more signs. You're going to get more. The more you ignore your guides, the less you get from them, and the more you encourage them and say thank you, and the higher vibration you have, and the more open heart you have, the more you'll receive. But do ensure that you have a big safe space, a big bubble around you, like I practice in all my free meditations. You can look up the 14-day spirit guide meditation on my website. It's totally free, and they're the same meditations I do each day, and that will help you both talk to your spirit guides and create safe spaces. What I would say, a question you didn't ask, is I've seen them physically. So the closest we've been so far, not that far away from each other. Like, I find it hard. It was in the sky. This was just before the lockdown started, and I saw the Galactic Federation ship Athena, and it's huge and beautiful. And for me, it looked about 5 or 6 moons, full moons in length in the sky. And kind of it's a funny thing to say, the height of the moon. But she wasn't actually that high. She felt quite close, because I could see all the individual lights, like these hundreds of individual lights, as she very gradually went across the sky. And the effect it had on me, I was like crying. These very, like, just my eyes were streaming, even though a distance. Patch was there as well. And in meditation later, I asked what had happened. I remember at 5:26 a.m. and I wrote a song about it called Ship in the Sky. There's an album called Ship in the Sky that features it. So yeah, so to explain a bit more about that journey that I'm going through, and I know others that are going through this as well, is that on the journey of contact, that it starts with the telepathic communication, if you like, or psychic or metaphysical abilities that we have, because they're far more broad-ranging. And there are entities, especially of lower vibrations, that can influence, you hear like spirit boxes and all these kind of things, that can influence, even calculators and stuff can influence what's shown there. But if you think about the reason for it, why would a being want to filter out all the good stuff? The the emotion, the feeling, the intention, the visuals behind what they send to you in communication. Well, maybe they're trying to hide all that. Maybe they just want to have a word, and very low vibration beings are very capable of saying, lovely things, or at least using those words, but the energy will completely feel off. So I hope that helps you. Oh, and yeah, I was going to say, on the journey of contact, it's very much a journey of preparation. And it also requires us to prepare ourselves, to release our fear, to make sure that I know for a fact my guides don't want to come much closer to me until I'm ready, and I'm not just going to completely freak out and, I don't know, just go and live at the top of a mountain by myself. Like, that's not what they want. They want me to continue to be integrated into this life, to be a father, to have a job, to pay my taxes, to have a home, like to have a happy, healthy life, and to begin to integrate more and more the communication and physical contact. Okay. We have some more questions, and we're already at 35 minutes. So let me finish these off. So we have Bon Vivant. Is that Bon Vivant? I don't know. .44. Glad you fared well through the storm. Yes, we did. Thank you. We're all safe. A question for your alien friends: do they have environmental issues similar or different to Earth? Different we do on Earth, such as garbage, waste management, disposal, pollution, and how do they handle it? Thank you, John et al. So, I did get some pre-answers about this when I first read your question, and thank you for it. The short answer is no. If you're familiar with a concept called 7 generations, and I believe this has been something that indigenous tribes have often used, is to think about what effect your action today will have on 7 generations of you. So your children's 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 children, and so on. And I feel that's a really powerful way of thinking. And what the first answers seem to come through from Emenshal, my Lyran guide. And he's saying, so this means that a lot of it's about creating greater harmony. So for example, their waste, and we might have heard of this before in the other videos, if they poo on the ground, for example, they just set the intention to poo, they do it in a specific area, and it's very much, they want the natural processes of their planet, Lyra, to begin to take over. Like, often we'll put dog poo, for example, in bags, and the bag is even biodegradable ones is far more destructive to the environment than the poo itself. But also, when you eat things that are healthier for you, what comes out of your body is also healthier for the planet. So everyone wins when you take better care of what you both consume and then what the waste that you create as well. Let me ask about garbage. He's trying to translate what garbage is. We call it rubbish here in the UK. He was calling it like clutter. He said they don't really throw things away like we do. So for example, if they've received something, maybe it has packaging in it, everything is like kind of set aside. I was showing it a bit like we'd have a kitchen. Everything's like set aside, and kind of what we'd call the waste itself is kind of like cleaned, and so it's cleaned and then kind of looked after, and then because it's like every material is kind of like almost celebrated. Instead of like throwing it away, it becomes objects they no longer need. And so he was calling it something clutter, like a bit like we would call it like decluttering. And he said this is a weekly activity that every family will do, and they'll declutter, and they'll also talk to others and see if there's anything that others want. So it's like a kind of local form of recycling, and then let me see what they do. Wow. So for anything they can't, I can't imagine this on Earth. Anything they can't recycle, rather than bury or burn it, they give it back to the people that sent it to the Lions that gave it to them. So can you imagine, like, I don't know, even getting like a like a ready meal with like a plastic tray, and then the plastic over the top. Like, you clean it all up, keep it for a week, and then see if your neighbors want it. And then if you didn't, you would take it back to or send it back to those that created it to be reused again. And it was really like it that whole approach to, it's like this kind of very much a zero waste approach, means that it totally has a different effect on their kind of their trade and their industries, because it means that they can't sell you something, you can't be sold something if the packaging is too much of a burden. Whereas we tend to just, certainly in the 80s, I remember when we were growing up, it just didn't matter. You just stuff everything in a bin and it'll get buried. Whereas now there's more care taken, but still companies don't think as much about the packaging. They just try and be roughly responsible, or some are more responsible than others. And imagine if you had to then go and send it back. I think it's fascinating. And it reminds me a bit like what we do in our household is every week we'll fill up our camper van with any cardboard recycling, etc. And we drive over to the nearby recycling plant, and we hand recycle everything and sort it. And we've just always done it. We find it easier than doing it. Otherwise, there's collections in the street, but they're not as efficient. So, but in terms of, is there anything else, any other pollution, etc.? Yeah, Eminshell's saying with pollution, like, you've really got to think carefully about the intention behind it, right? So if you're creating any kind of product that includes whether it's, energy or like a gas, or he was showing me like some like air systems they use for, they have like spacesuits like us. He was saying like anything that creates what could be toxins in the environment, they have to do so. They have to do so very, very carefully. And so I describe the way it works is that they will work with Lyra herself, the planet, and ask more about how does this work? Like, how can we do a good job? How can we achieve what we want to, but by not creating pollution? So there seems to be a very zero waste approach to, or zero pollution aspect to what they create as well. And I did get hints through that of some technologies, when they're in spaceships, etc., they can't always send stuff back to the manufacturers. But they did have like some like recycling technologies, including like breaking down matter and reconstructing it. So a bit like, we would use for paper or for plastic, and creating new products with them. Okay. Thank you for your question. And the final one is from Jennifer's Daydream. Hi, John. I don't mean to put a question in the wrong place. Just so you know, you can put them in any place, in any video. I was told by an experienced off-world communicator that ETs sometimes give us dream tests, particularly the Arcturians. I have had a few dreams lately that seem like that. Just putting it out there, and thanks for all you do. No, thank you. So dream tests. And if I answer from John's perspective, yeah, loads. I would say we also do a lot of missions. So in Dreamtime, we're often given challenges to do. And this is part of our soul's like job description. Like, we've signed up for a lifetime. And for example, I go on a lot of Galactic Federation missions in the fourth dimension and help clear up the mess that's there. The energetic mess, the beings that are there, and help clear it up, because we have to pass through it on the way to the fifth dimension, many of us. And then as part of that, there's tests. In fact, I remember sometimes I remember the debriefing sessions from the missions. And one of them that really sticks in my mind was, so I'm sat at a computer and it felt almost like I was back in the 1980s or something, because they're also across different, these missions are across different space and time. And I sat facing this, there was this woman sat behind a computer, human, and she's looking at me and she's saying to me, are you sure you're ready to go back to Earth, like to go back into your body? And I said, yeah, I'm fine. I said, I'm all good. And so there was a test, and the test was, what year is it you're going back to? And I got it totally wrong. I said it's 1988. And she looked at me and she's like, I'm not mucking about. You won't go back unless you are, you're going to give me like the right answer. And so I gave the right answer. And then she asked my name, and then I wasn't sure about my name. And then she said, right, that's it. She says, I'm not sure you're ready to go back. And then I woke up and I was like, oh, I think I came back. I'm pretty sure I did. But you get lots of different tests as well. A lot of it is about, a lot of the themes of these tests are to measure your fear levels. So for example, if I just back in 2017, and I first asked to speak to my spirit guides and started getting answers, if I completely freaked out, closed my heart, gone into fear, believed I was mentally ill, and then, and start blaming myself for those experiences, then they would have stopped. They were like, you don't really fail these tests. It's just you get a result. It's like an experiment, and you can argue you pass and fail experiments, but they're always successful in giving you an outcome. And so lots of these happen. I've had loads of different others as well. And I am working more with the Arcturians. Loads and loads of clients that I work with have Arcturian guides at the moment, but also because the Arcturians, I'm working with an Arcturian with my journey of contact. And there's a few things about Arcturians. One is they're incredible healers. They're very wise and very beautiful beings. And very peaceful and highly technically capable, but also it seems that they seem particularly well suited for Earth. They also look a little bit like Earthlings, taller, thinner, and with longer heads, and they do vary significantly in size and shape, especially their heads. But they're easier for us humans to have first contact with than, for example, Lyrans, who are lion beings, which many humans would find quite scary. It would take longer to get through the fear process. So these are very common tests. And yeah, likely you're having dreams like that. You are being tested. And so my advice is, like any of these experiences I was talking about earlier about connecting with your guides, etc., and angel numbers, whatever you see, celebrate when you remember something, when you feel something, say thank you so much for that experience. You don't need to apologize about how you reacted in your test or what you did. Just thank them for the experience, and it'll encourage them, your guides, or the Arcturians that you're working with, to do more of these. You can also practice just before you go to sleep at night. Set the intention, create a protective space around you, open up your heart, and say out loud, say, I'm ready for my tests or my missions tonight. And always ask your guides, be specific. It's much safer to start, if you're going to start with any being, especially galactic beings, address them as your spirit guides. Don't say Arcturians, because there's a lot of Arcturians, right? And I mean, just like any galactic race, they're not all angels, they're not all perfect, right? They'll, just like our guides, they'll have different frequency ranges. In other words, some are on the more to the good side, some are more to the bad side, and everything in between. So just allowing yourself to open up to having an open heart, but in a safe space. And then finally, when you remember these experiences, practice integrating them as well. And that means saying to yourself, I think that was real. I think that was a test or a mission that I did last night in Dreamtime. Thank you for that experience. And then like you're kind of giving yourself like a thumbs up, thumbs down and saying, yes, it was real for me. Like it felt so real, felt so lucid, felt like a conscious, real event. And I had some last night. And it wasn't so much a test. It was more like a mission. Like they weren't measuring me on the outcome, more that it was something I had to do, that I agreed to do. And that I was just working through it. In many respects, they were making sure if the test was anything, it was just making sure I completed what I was doing, not so much the measurement of the actual thing. So, I'd said it out loud a few times in meditation this morning. Thank you for the experience. And just allow it to settle into my mind and my day-to-day reality, or reject it. You get to choose. And so that conscious like processing, perhaps you're out for a walk and you're just allowing yourself to reflect on these experiences, or you're telling someone else like I am just now. It's a great way of reflecting through this. So yeah, I hope these answer your questions. Thank you so much. That was a full 50 minutes, or just 50 minutes. If you have more questions, please put them in the comments. Please do take a look at my free Spirit Guide meditations. They're the 14-day Spirit Guide meditations on my website. They're the first picture you see when you go on the homepage just now, and you can just click through that. You can also go into the meditations and training menu and explore them in there. So I will close the session down. You didn't see me start it, but I'll close it down safely, thanking our guides, our higher selves, Archangel Michael, Archangel Raphael, Source and Gaia, and every soul that participated in today's session, closing it down and asking everyone to step outside of it. So I return the session to Source, or never return here again. And please drink plenty of water, get plenty of rest, and I look forward to answering more of your questions. Take care, everyone. Sending love. See you soon.